Slovakia's opposition leader says the deal to approve expanding the EU bailout fund has been reached and it will be voted in later this week. Earlier, the country's parliament voted against it, which caused the collapse of the country's ruling coalition. Slovakia was the only member to say no to increasing the facility, which already got the green light from 16 out of the 17 Eurozone members. Let's now talk to British Euro MP Nigel Farage for more insight into this. Thank you for coming on today. We know that Slovakia will hold another vote expected to approve expanding the bailout fund. Why would it want to derail it in the first place when the cash there could be used to help it as well?
Well, can I just correct you? When you said that 16 countries had voted for the Eurozone bailout, what you meant was 16 parliaments stuffed with career politicians had voted for it, not 16 countries. Because I tell you something, if you put this bailout package to a referendum across Europe, the vast majority of countries would say no. So Slovakia said no last night, but of course no isn't good enough. No is unacceptable in the modern European Union. If you say no, as the Irish did a couple of years ago, as the Slovaks did last night, you're made to vote again until you get the right answer, which gives you a true measure of what this project's really like.
Okay, so as I understand from you, the re-vote is politically motivated here, but will increasing the bailout fund to 440 billion euros be enough if Spain or Italy were to go under?
No, I mean, look, you know, it's difficult to tell what will happen, but if Italy goes, they're going to need a couple of trillion to bail it out. And what is the point, actually, of bailing these countries out? What are the bailouts? Are these bailouts helping the people in Greece and Portugal and Ireland? No, they're not. What they're actually doing is they're giving money to these countries to give back to our banks who overlent the money in the first place. I mean, the whole thing is mad. What these countries need, who are trapped inside this economic prison called the euro, is they need to devalue. Without devaluation, they're having austerity packages pushed upon them, which is forcing them into a downward deflationary spiral, which, in my opinion, in Greece and possibly in Portugal too, could lead to revolution. What we're doing is stupid and very, very dangerous indeed.
So more austerity measures for the people, more bailouts for the banks. As you say, the banks are the ones who caused this crisis in the first place. But the EU Commission President, Jose Manuel Barroso, has called for coordinated strengthening of the region's banks. In any way, shape or form, could that help avert another recession, or is it not just another way of lining the pockets of the banksters?
What it is, it's a way of preparing the banks for the inevitable defaults that are going to come from those Eurozone countries. So that's why they're recapitalising the banks. I mean, I accept that sovereign debt and bank debt are two separate issues, but the interconnection is also very strong indeed. Look, they are, you know, you must understand that I've just been in this parliamentary chamber with Mr. Barroso. These people are absolutely intent on creating a United States of Europe. They don't care how many millions of people are chucked onto the unemployment scrap heap. They don't care about the tide of human misery that they cause. They have got their political goal. But the reality is that not only economically is this failing, but politically it's failing. You know, we can talk about the Slovakian parliament, but more significantly, look at what happened in Finland earlier this year, where a virtually brand new political party got 20% of the vote. Look at the opinion polls in the Netherlands. There is now a split in Europe from north to south, and in the north we are witnessing a democratic revolution against the whole concept of the euro and the idea that people like Mr. Barroso and my old friend Herman Van Rompuy should govern 500 million people. It is not acceptable.
Now, as you're saying, when it comes to the eurozone, you're saying it's economically it's failed, politically it's failed.
Yeah.
What is the solution? What is the point?
Well, I have been asking now for about 9 months, repeatedly, for a plan B. Could we please be grown up? Could we please be mature? And could we please be good Europeans and recognise that when this inevitable Greek default comes, unless we have a plan B, on day one, there'll be no money on the banks. On day two, there'll be no bread in the bakers. So can we please have a contingency plan that allows us to deal with this problem as and when it emerges? To date, they've prepared absolutely nothing. And this is just how irresponsible and dangerous these people are. I think what will happen now is that senior economists will begin to put together a contingency plan that allows Greece, Portugal and probably Ireland too to leave the euro, to reschedule their debts, to get a new currency that devalues by maybe 50 or 60%. And as Iceland proved back in 2008, sometimes it's best to take the bad news, to accept
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Friday, October 14th, 2011. I'm Darko. My website is ggnonline.com and ddarko2012 is my YouTube channel. Okay, this is some Big Brother news, and we'll go into eugenics. A Florida school district is taking attendance by scanning students' fingers. So it goes in there and it says, rather than the usual name-calling response, students are now checking into class with finger scanning devices, and to keep better track of the students from the minute they come under district supervision until they are delivered safely home again. And it's basically, it's just pointed out there, it's like going from one prison, it's a transferring of prisoners. That's why they're doing this. That's what they would do to prisoners. You go to school, that's a prison. It's a re-education camp, a FEMA camp. Basically, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not a FEMA camp, but the concept is the same. It's a camp that you go pretty much against your will, and so you go from there to where? To your home, which is, unfortunately for most people, it's another prison cell. You even have a little number called your postal address. Back in the day, you didn't even have addresses. Isn't it kind of weird now that you have a little number attached to every person that's living here? Every household. That's why they don't like homeless people in cardboard boxes, because they don't have little addresses. So in my mind, yes, homes are another form of a prison cell. So yeah, that makes sense that you're going to track your soon-to-be next generation of serfs as they go from prison to other forms of prisons. Okay, we're going to keep moving here. It says ministers plan big rise in use of electronic tags on offenders. More than 30 firms said to be keen to bid for new contracts as Ken Clark seeks to improve confidence in alternatives to prison. This is, of course, in the UK, but it says ministers are preparing a massive expansion in electronic tagging of offenders, with private security companies being invited to bid more than $1 billion worth of contracts next. And of course, I guess it sounds okay to some people. It doesn't sound good to me at all, but to some people it may sound feasible, right? You're an offender, right? You're an offender, you're a bad person, everything's black and white, everything's right and wrong, and you can be a 60-year-old woman living in Britain, and who doesn't want to put their dog to sleep, their old dog, and you could actually get arrested and be considered an offender and have to wear an ankle tag. That's a true story. I covered that. It says here. So that's the whole thing about if you want to have a government, you can't have it both ways. You have to put up with all the ridiculous laws, codes, ordinances that are all set up just basically to enslave you. I mean, it's simple as that. I mean, I hate to say it. I know it sounds depressing and everything, but yeah, that's the way it works. They can basically if you're not walking the line, you can get your card pulled. And that's why most of these politicians are sellouts, because most of them have dirt on them. Well, other groups have dirt on them, so that when they don't play the game, their card gets pulled. And of course, if they don't have any dirt, well then, sometimes the old, ooh, you got a tumor, you got cancer, ooh, you got an accident and a plane crash. You know what I'm saying? Positive ID Corporation receives Verichip order for use with Israeli military. So it says here that a developer of medical technologies for diabetes management, clinical diagnostics, and biothreat detection announced today that it had received an order for its Verichip microchip to be used for disaster preparedness and emergency management in Israel by integration partner. That's FEMA camps. That's the shit hitting the fan in FEMA camps, and having RFID chips placed in you either voluntarily or through vaccinations, and tracking, like I tying it back in with tracking the slaves, tracking the prisoners. So that would make sense. And of course it makes sense that it's Israel, because if Israel's doing it, then you know that the U.S. is doing it or is going to do it. So it's here, and also Israel just seems to be doing a lot of preparing for something. It says here, FBI monitoring news talk radio for investigations. If you call a radio talk show and get on the air, you might be recorded by the FBI. The FBI has awarded almost a $500,000 contract to a Virginia company to record as much radio news and talk programming as it can find on the internet. Said FBI says it's not playing Big Brother by policing the airways, but rather seeking access to what airs as potential evidence. Evidence to what? As a terrorist activity. That's right. See? Anything could be, you could be an offender of anything. This doesn't give us any enhanced capability, prying into, or any big brother concerns, because this is information that's being put on the airways. Said it's very important to our investigators to know what's being reported. And of course, he goes to the Times Square bomber, which was basically nothing. And just like every other little fake little patsy terrorist sting, it's usually set up and funded by the FBI themselves. There is no real threat. And if there is a threat, it's coming from the government themselves. So if anything, we should just keep doing what we're doing and just track them. It says here, food rights, gene rights, and Monsanto no food rights. Judge quits to work for Monsanto law firm. This is crazy. And it goes on here, and it says that as courts and bureaucrats continue to assert that citizens have no right to produce and consume the foods of their choice, we find Monsanto lurking nearby. It says here, the Wisconsin judge recently ruled that we have no right to own a cow or drink its milk, resigned to join one of Monsanto's law firm. And this, of course, is just evidence that that revolving door theory about the military-industrial complex, and then these politicians, they go in to the government to basically legislate all of these friendly bills. They're going to be friendly towards these big duopolies and monopolies and that big global corporations. And when they're done, they get a good payoff. And what's the payoff? Oh, they call it, we're going to the private sector. Because if you come from the public sector, you have, quote, experience, right? And then you can go into the private sector and get a nice, $200,000 job. And then one day when you're a CEO of that private industry corporation and the government, has too many regulations, well, see, then it's time to leave. Then it's time to leave the private sector and go in the public sector and start changing the rules and loosening things for yourself and other corporations. And that's why I promote a stateless society. And I only mention this every once in a while, and I don't go on into it too much, except for that one video where someone asked me for a solution. But that is my solution, because people can bitch and whine all they want, but as long as they have that big elephant in the room, the state, committing violent acts against people, it's never going to go away. So this is going to just continue. The only solution is that you end the government. So then you don't have stuff like this happening, where the government could be used as a tool to not only benefit these big corporations, but also help enslave you. Okay, we're going to move on here. Mind-controlled robotic arm successful, and that's of course what it was created for. Basically for military troops, but also it's technology that can be created to create soldiers, robotic soldiers, so you don't need those pesky humans with those pesky emotions and soul and stuff like that, and morals. It says here, robots on the farm. So this is what it can be produced for too, right? So in this brave new world in the future, when you have these drones and these big Monsanto farms sectioned off with barbed wire and drones surveilling it, farms may soon be staffed by autonomous robots that do everything from harvesting to pest control. And it said it could help protect human workers from the harmful effects of handling chemicals by hand, which happen to be in your food that you eat, but they don't want to put that out there. Farmers throw scantily clad Rihanna off his farm. And it makes sense, because Rihanna was named Esquire's sexiest woman alive. She's a good role model, like this woman who's going to perform at the Super Bowl halftime show and perform an Illuminati ritual. That's right. Whole Foods Market supports pink breast cancer awareness campaigns that fund drug industry. Then cheerleaders chastised for wearing a shirt that says "Feel for lumps and save your bumps." Next up, Lady Gaga bans Lady Gugu's song. The company was surprised that it happened, but it's not surprising, because she is the Illuminati's go-to girl. China's one-child policy expected to produce 40 million surplus male. And also, Chinese orphanages buying babies for foreign adoption investigation fines. So this is horrible stuff going on over there. Then next up, we have now third child can land you in jail. And that's, of course, in India. Then next up, cousin of Queen Elizabeth II says abortion a form of eugenics. And, of course, she got scolded for that. Donate your organs and we'll pay for your funeral costs. Jerry Brown legalizes 12-year-old children giving consent to Gardasil vaccine injections, but bans tanning beds for those under 18. And it says here that employees are rewarded with iPads for harassing customers to get a flu shot. And video games can alter children's brains. That's right. Warning over children's appalling handwriting skills, says they don't even know how to write their own name. Unvaccinated children far less prone to allergies and disease than vaccinated children. Look at this. Reading skills of English teens worse than Chinese. A study finds they lag behind a year and a half. So they can't read and they can't write. Great. That must be No Child Left Behind. Get this, Black Death genetic code was built, and it says here is reconstructed by scientists. And the Black Death, of course, was what? Bubonic plague and pneumonic, among others. But look at this, scientists' death from bubonic plague confirmed. He died while conducting vaccine research, which is what it will be used for a pandemic. GGN, thank you.